Hello. Hi guys, so today I'm going to tell you how to buy stuff from China to Zimbabwe online, and this might be the most in-depth anyone will ever go into this topic. So I think you really need to listen to this one. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell. Let's go. Okay, so quick backstory. I started buying from China in 2015, 16, around that time. And I was still in university at that time. So I started buying small things like watches, just trying to see the entire process. And that's entirely how I got to learn about this. So the apps to use basically are AliExpress and Alibaba. So those are the two apps I have used when buying from China. So I will only speak on what I have sort of experienced so that I don't tell something that I do not know in this context, right? So I've used AliExpress, I've used Alibaba. AliExpress is mainly for sort of retail. So it's more like you are buying it okay, in quotes, right? So you're buying more from a retail shop or at a retail price, which is not necessarily low, but obviously it's lower than what you might get here in Zimbabwe or something like that. But it's more for things you want to buy in like single items, or things you want to buy in small quantities and stuff like that. Because if you buy in large quantities, sometimes the costs of shipping might balloon, but it all depends. So it all depends with the company which you are buying from, etc. Then Alibaba is more like that wholesale shop. So it's not necessarily built for you buying like single items, etc. But you're buying something like you're buying pens, 1,000 pens or 10,000 pens, something like that. And on Alibaba, sometimes they give you also the option of actually branding your items and stuff like that, but you have to buy a lot of stuff. So these are the two apps I've used. So I'll only speak on those, and generally I think these are the apps you can also use if you want to buy from China. So yeah, unogona ngovharwa, this is you buying things online from someone you don't know. So I cannot necessarily tell you how to use the app, because obviously this is not like a tutorial on how to use those apps or something like that. You can sort of log in into AliExpress or Alibaba, experience the sort of interface and different things. But what I'll tell you here are just best practices so that you can know some of these things when you're buying from Alibaba or AliExpress. So there was this one time I was trying to buy certain equipment. It was for like cameras and stuff, like those camera stuff. And I was buying from AliExpress. I was using AliExpress, and I was buying like in sort of large quantities. It was a box. But the problem I did was I did not communicate with the company or the organization or the person selling before buying. So I actually bought, it was something like $174, somewhere there. And I actually bought, went on, clicked the button, start order, and there I was saying, yeah, no, it didn't happen like that. Unfortunately, the company or the organization, when they were supposed to then confirm the order, they then came like to my chat. Inside the applications, there's sort of like a chat box where the supplier can send you a message. So they came to my chat and said, no, we do not ship to Zimbabwe. Unfortunately, or fortunately enough, those apps have sort of refund mechanisms where you can ask for a refund and the supplier confirms, and then you get your refund or you get your money, something like that. So I did apply for a refund. However, it took like 18 days for that refund to come. I want to use the money, but I can't because it's not with me. So I had to ask for a refund, and then yeah, it came after quite a number of days. So one thing you have to understand with these things is always make sure, always, and by always I mean it's imperative, always talk to the supplier before you buy. Always. Do not buy without understanding the terms of everything, like shipping. Do you ship to Zimbabwe? How much does it cost for you to ship such and such a number of items, etc. Especially on Alibaba, because on Alibaba you are mainly buying like things in bulk. So if you're buying things in bulk, you definitely have to know every detail. Good, okay, yeah, which shipping company are you using? Also, do you like are you transporting using air or ship? How long does it usually take for you to manufacture from that side? Because if it's a large number of items they manufacture, when you order something like that, you have to understand these things. So you have to chat with the supplier, ask the supplier first. Imperative, 100%. Okay, then secondly, and abandonat terrorists, always look at the reviews first of the company, person, etc. before buying. Now, on Alibaba, it's a bit tricky because on Alibaba, reviews do not always show up. Like, there are limited number of reviews. You might see someone only one review or two, but that's already legit. So sometimes people can be legit, right? But on AliExpress, these reviews or the review system is quite prevalent. People use it a lot. So if you're on AliExpress, definitely check the reviews. Definitely also check the orders, the number of orders that item has been bought. Like, it will show you, Guti, this item has been bought like 2,000 times, something like that. That will give you sort of an idea of, is this item legit? Does it also like work, etc.? Because you can check the reviews. Some even send pictures, etc., something like that. So on AliExpress, definitely do this, and this will help you kuti usavarwe. Because trust me, if you are going to send money online to someone you don't know, you have to be sure about everything, right? So you have to be sure about at least most things so that you are just covered, in terms of conscience. But on Alibaba, it's a bit tricky. So on Alibaba, I would say you might check reviews, then also chat with the supplier so that you just understand. Then maybe from your own conscience or the goodness of your heart, you just say, okay, you know what, let me continue to buy. Because trust me, if you just see an item on AliExpress, it looks nice, it looks cheap, which is even worse, and so there's a plane there. Bye bye. Okay, so I was saying, if you buy something and you just see it as zero reviews, zero orders, something like that, especially on AliExpress, and just say, okay, I'm going to buy and it will come. Yeah, we don't trust people like that. You definitely have to make sure. On AliExpress, I would suggest that you always buy something that has been bought. It's even better if you find a review from Zimbabwe, because they will show you flags there. So that's even better, because it can actually come to Zimbabwe. However, sometimes people just don't review, so that's not like a mandatory requirement, I would say. But you always have to make sure this thing has been bought, it's been used as well, and how it can be used. Still remember, there's a time I bought, it was a jacket, right? So when I saw the picture, I saw it like a Chinese collar jacket. So I was saying, you know what, I'm going to, I'll be really nakachena, ndakanatsorowa mcheno, and stuff like that. I was seeing myself in a different light, But the challenge was, in terms of sizes and also in terms of the actual material of the item. So things like clothes, those kinds of things. It's a bit tricky, but if you kind of test it out and you now know the like sizes and stuff, then you might go and buy. Because when the item came, it was this jersey, my jersey, anotengeswa $15 in town. This jersey with stripes, like colors on the stripes here on the sides. It was that jersey, but on the picture, it looked like a suit, like a Chinese suit. And, Thirdly, always choose your shipping company wisely. So I'm going to talk more about shipping in the next sort of segment, just showing you everything you need to know about shipping. But in just a brief sort of summary, shipping is very important, because how your item arrives would determine pretty much the condition, also determine the time it will arrive. So you have to ask, is it coming by ship? Because by ship, it might take 1 month to 3 months, something like that, or 2 months. It depends, right? But most of the times it might come by air, then maybe come at the airport, then depending on which sort of company you used. If you selected FedEx, it will come by air, right? Then when it comes to the airport, FedEx will take it, then maybe put it at their head office, something like that, or DHL. If it comes by post, it will come at ZimPost. If it comes by UPS, etc. So on Alibaba, the shipping companies, most of the times you have to ask the suppliers because it won't necessarily specify. So some products they do specify. However, what I've seen is suppliers sometimes might have another like shipping company which they use, but they don't outline it on the product. So it's always important. And I will repeat this, Iwe. It's important for you to speak to the supplier first before making a decision. Absolutely important. So shipping, you are mainly looking at reliability and cost. Yeah, I think those are the two major, right? You can add like whichever ones you want from there, but generally you are looking at which one is cheaper. If you don't care about cost, then you can just go for anything. Then also speed, then also reliability, because some might misplace your package, etc., things like that. So we just cover bases based on my experience with these. I've used these shipping companies since 2015, really, so I know everything about them in detail. So yeah. So I'll start by showing you where your items arrive if they are coming by plane, where your items arrive at the airport. So you can actually go at the airport. Here I was at Harare, it's now Robert Mugabe International Airport, which is in Harare. But you know, from in other cities like Bulawayo, Vicforce, I'm not necessarily sure they. But I'm sure there's a place where your parcels are handled, etc. But in Harare, this is where you go. So this is NHS Cargo Village. It's by the airport where I've just showed you. This is where your parcel comes to in the event that it has come through plane, and usually you just go through there. So when I collected my parcel here, I was using UPS, and I went through there. I think that's where you collect. But in most cases, they'll just send it to the nearest station. So they'll collect it from here. But in the event that there are any cases where you want to kind of maybe pay duty for yourself, or there are any complications with the parcel, you just come and check in the NHS Cargo Village here at the airport. I'm not sure about the other cities like Bulawayo, Vicforce, but I'm sure they also have their cargo ports which are there. And the parking here is free. So I know at the airport it's paid, right? But here the parking is free. So you can just come here, park and collect your parcel. So I collected my parcel once from there. It was coming via UPS. I was using UPS at that time. So I collected my parcel once, and yeah, there was no real problems there. So I think most of the people who say they want to pay duty on their own, etc., can just go there and inquire from their supplier and just say, I'm here to collect my item, and they can just pay. Because in most cases, wherever there's like a place where parcels are handled, there's also like ZIMRA there where you pay your duties, or if there are any taxes on your items, you also pay there. So obviously I would encourage you to pay duties, right? Obviously. So I'll start with the cheapest, which is ZimPost. ZimPost is very cheap. I've been using them since way long back. So for single items, I would definitely encourage ZimPost because it's very cheap. I last used them, I think, last year, so I'm not necessarily sure about their fixed price in terms of handling your parcel, because they used to have a fixed price. The last time I used them, it was like $2, but now obviously it might have changed. But it was like $2. You just pay $2 from them. Then there's also like a fee for duty on top. So yeah. But I'll show you ZimPost sorting office, which is here. guys, so this is where ZimPost sorting office is. So this is the central sorting office, and in most cases this is where your parcels will pass through the first time of arrival. However, in some cases they do then send, actually in most cases they do then send your parcels to your nearest ZimPost station. So depending on the address which you put when you buy certain stuff, that's where they will send it. However, if let's say you are tracking your item and you just see that it has arrived in Harare, in most cases it will start by passing through here. So you start by confirming through these guys first, or if there are any complications with your parcel, maybe they want to confirm the price, etc., you come here again and you can confirm from here. So yeah, so ZimPost sorting office, it's more like, if this is my imagination, right, it's more like this is where your parcel comes, then they distribute it to the different ZimPost post stations, right, across the region, their region, sort of. That's what I think. Because my parcel, sometimes when I had like problems, when ZIMRA would want to confirm in terms of like the price of your items, they would actually call like ZimPost. There's ZimPost there, then there's ZIMRA on the side. There's a ZIMRA office per side power. So they'll just call and confirm how much was your item, can you come with the receipts and stuff. So I would go there, then show them it was this. Then they would actually write okay, then they would write their sort of fee for duty. Then they would give it to ZimPost per side in the end of ZimPost, and then I'll just pay from there both the duty and their handling fee for ZimPost. I'm not sure how do they then split that, but yeah, it's on their side. However, this is what I would do. So I would say it's more like the sorting office. Sometimes they would call you, your item has arrived, wanting you to come and confirm. Then you just send them the sort of the receipt. Then when you send them, you might not even go there and collect. You can go there and collect and just pay your duty there. But sometimes the address you put, AliExpress, Alibaba, they just send it there, like the nearest station. So when I was in Chitungwiza, they would send it either to Town Center, Zengeza. They'll just send it there. Then after they send it there, you just collect it from there. In a perfect scenario, ZimPost should send you slips in your mailbox, right, to say your item has arrived. But I've seen that sometimes they might take time, or it might not even come. So what I would suggest with you is, when you are using these apps, always track your item. When your item says Harare, ZW, ukangoiona, in fact, ikatongoti Zimbabwe, it mostly means it's now already there, like in Harare, sorting office. So when it says that already, you have to call. You have to call, give them your tracking number, confirm if your order has arrived, etc. I have this parcel. Can I ask if my parcel has arrived? It's always good, because the parcel is yours. If you want to wait for them, you just blame them. But you can, inquire, and it's allowed, right? Then also, I've never really had any challenges with ZimPost. No. In fact, with all the shipping companies I'm going to say today, my parcels have never been stolen or something like that. There were just a few challenges which I'm going to highlight on each individual. But with ZimPost, I never really had any problems. Yeah, never. Absolutely. Then we'll go to UPS. Now, UPS, I've used them with Alibaba because my supplier was using FedEx and then UPS, so I moved then to UPS. UPS is also slightly cheaper in terms of their handling fees, I would say. That's my experience. Then also they're a bit fast. I think they are as fast as FedEx, DHL. However, I think they are not as fast. So it's fast, right? But it's not like as fast. With ZimPost, it might take even a month right? Because your parcel might come by air, then post handles it, then it comes, then that process, to ZIMRA will confirm what. It might take some time, the parcel. So yeah. So it might take some time with ZimPost. However, with UPS, it might take slightly lesser time. Then in terms of course, they are also the reliability. I would say they are reliable because I've never really had any challenges with them, except at times when maybe they would say, ZIMRA wants to inspect your item, etc. Because sometimes when you buy things in bulk, if they are too much, like too many, then it might call for inspection or some things like that, or that's what they would say. So yeah, sometimes it might delay just slightly. However, never really had any challenges. And they can also be found kuma industry. Then we move to FedEx. FedEx, in terms of cost, it's a bit slightly higher up. I would put it at first. I'll tell you why in a second. However, it's a bit slightly higher up just on face value. They are very fast, just as fast as DHL. Also, never really had any challenges with them. Very reliable. My parcel was never lost. Yeah, they are pretty reliable, I would say. However, on that reliability, just hold that. I think I can go tell or something. However, I've used them 2 times, right? FedEx. And on both of those 2 times, my parcel was delayed. Now, I don't mean delayed like weeks or no, I mean delayed like months. On both of those 2 times again, I've been told to add on to duty. I don't really know. Yeah, FedEx, yeah, for me, it wasn't a good experience. However, this is my personal experience. It's not from judgment of the company because some people use FedEx and they've actually used them successfully, or at least their parcels arrived in time and they've been reliable. So, yeah. But in my case, I actually have the emails where I was sending. Sorry, camera and get cut up. My phone storage. Just please subscribe so that I can get money to buy a new camera, please. Then you are told to add more duty or more money on the money you originally had paid for duty and their handling fees. So yeah, for me it wasn't a nice experience. However, you can also use them because they are as reliable. For me, in my experience, this is my personal experience. This is a true up, so don't take it like for naught. However, for my personal experience, I found that they are very fast, as fast as DHL, I'd say, and also reliable in some cases. However, some have complained, but in my case, very reliable. But just those things of uncertainties and cost and stuff like that, which is why I was saying sometimes you might then put them at the first, because those uncertainties sometimes may unsettle you, especially if you're buying to also resell here in Zimbabwe. Then it will be a challenge because you might say, okay, duty is this such and such an amount. Then you're like, okay, cool. Then after that, you are told, no, you need to add. So yeah, it's a whole other process, but yeah. Then let's move on to DHL. Now DHL is very fast. I also used them 2 times. DHL never really had any challenges. In fact, never had a challenge at all. It's just that they're expensive. I think they are the most expensive on the list here, just on face value. But for me, they are very fast. In fact, they are pretty fast to the extent that if they delay, they actually call you. At least for my first parcel, that's what they did. They actually call you to say, okay, your parcel was supposed to arrive at this time, but it will be delayed by 1 day and stuff like that. On my second attempt, they didn't call because I think the plane was delayed somewhere in the way, but I saw it on the app, so I kind of was just prepared. But it wasn't delayed by like more than 2 days or something like that, so I kind of knew. And most of the times it would take a week to 2 weeks, but it definitely a week for your parcel to arrive with DHL. DHL is reliable, very expensive. That's not a necessarily good thing. I know. I was saying it like it's a good thing, but anyways. So yeah, I would say if you want to buy something maybe which is needed like now, or if you are not necessarily looking at it from a business perspective, but it's your own consumer perspective, and you want that kind of safety, you can use them. But you can use them all. You can use either one of them, because FedEx, also reliable in my experience, UPS, ZimPost as well in my experience. However, the reviews from multiple people online obviously are different. Some people, even where I had said, or I have said, like they are reliable or something like that, someone might also say, for me, it wasn't as reliable. I'm sure that you can get those kinds of scenarios, which is why the disclaimer for all of this is my personal experience. So do not take it as a sermon, right? Do not take it like I'm serving word here. However, take it as sort of more like someone talking about their experience, right? And just you also might get a few things from that experience, so that you just understand that. Yeah. So this is an insert because I had left it out on the original video. However, on AliExpress, if you see Pakan's standard shipping, it usually means it's coming by post or just standard or something like that. When they use like a shipping company, which I've mentioned here in any of these shipping companies like UPS, or they use FedEx, or they use DHL, it will be actually written could DHL Express or FedEx, something like that. Then there are also multiple shipping companies that also sort of operate here in Zimbabwe. I'm not necessarily sure of the number of them. I've never really used any outside of this, because I sort of tested buying from China for myself. So I didn't necessarily use any other shipping company which is different, but I'm sure there are other ways where there are people here who operate, who have sort of contacts in China, and you just send to that sort of address in China, then they ship. Then maybe they have a place here where they unload, and you can receive your parcel there. I'm not sure how reliable it is or costly. However, if you have experiences with that, then just put them in the comment section down below. And why haven't you subscribed? Huh? Anyways, this was a short, no, it wasn't short. I think some of these videos were really long. I think it will come up even up to 20 minutes. But trust me, these are 20 minutes which might be worth your time, because this is coming from someone who has had the experience of actually buying there multiple times, and with these multiple sort of shipping companies and applications as well. So I've only used two. However, I'm sure I can experience multiple as well, from Amazon, from Shein. You can sort of get notes from this video and also apply those notes to these other sort of websites and applications, so that you can use them for safety in terms of your buying from outside. So if you have any other experiences, questions, put them down in the comment section down below. See you in the next video. And by the way, make sure you subscribe.